पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so we completed the second chapter last time, and would anybody like to share what were the sections we covered up there? The first part was Arjuna's indecision and surrendering to Lord Krishna as his guru. So that section that teaches us, that helps us to know what to do when we don't know what to do. So what is the lesson? That we have to take shelter of somebody senior to us, somebody superior. We have to accept guidance from someone. So that section tells us about accepting a spiritual master in our life. When we don't know what to do, we should know what to do. That is taking shelter of the spiritual master. Then the second section, Krishna gave knowledge about Gyan, the Gyan yoga or the Sankhya yoga, which tells us about difference between matter and spirit. And Krishna defeated the argument, the first argument of Arjuna about what do you call that, compassion for his family members. So Krishna told him that how his compassion was wrongly placed. It was on the bodily platform. There is a difference between body and soul. We all are soul. So don't place your compassion on bodily level. It should be placed on the soul level. So Krishna defeated that argument by the Gyan Yoga or the Sankhya Yoga. Then in the third section, Krishna defeated the second argument of Arjuna, which was the loss of enjoyment. So Krishna told him about Karam Kand or Sakam Karam Yoga. The Karam Kand or Sakam means you do your action, prescribed duty, accepting the something in return. You expect to enjoy the result in return. So when we do prescribed duties, when we do Karam Kanda, so definitely you will have enjoyment. Right? Either whether you win or you lose, you will definitely enjoy. So Krishna gave him this this argument to defeat his second reason for not fighting. Then the third section, Krishna talked about Nishkam Karam Yoga. That was to defeat Arjuna's argument of incurring sin. So Krishna said, if you do Nishkam Karam Yoga, that means when you are not attached to the result, then you are not incurring anything. You are not affected by the reaction, the result of the action. Good or bad, you will not be affected by that. You will be not bounded by that. So perform Nishkam Karam Yoga, then no sin for you. So rise above the three modes of material nature and just do your duty. And then Krishna then Arjuna inquired about the Sthit Pragya Yogi, that who is this person who is above these three modes and who is not disturbed by all this, who is totally focused upon you. Before this, Krishna has told about Vyasai Atmika Buddhi, like, one-pointed intelligence, the resolute intelligence one should have. So he was like, who is this person? What are his symptoms and how does he speak? How does he walk and how does he sit and all? So 4 questions Arjuna asked, and then Krishna answered that in the last section. So now I think I didn't mention the next reason of Arjuna, that was the last reason actually, that was indecision. So the indecision argument of Arjuna was answered by Krishna in verse number 2.41, that is Vyavasai Atmika Buddhi. So one-pointed intelligence. Don't be indecisive. If you want to achieve your destination, then you have to become resolute in your motive, in Krishna consciousness. Buddhi is intelligence, and Vyavasai Atmika is resolute, fixed buddhi you should have. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. Have one aim in your life. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So if your goal is not one, if you are irresolute in your aim, then your intelligence will be many branched. That's what you are showing now. You are indecisive. You don't know what to do, this or that, right or wrong. So become resolute in your motive, in your aim, in your Krishna consciousness, ultimately for us. So then your intelligence will be fixed. So that was the answer of Arjuna to the last reason of, answer of Krishna to Arjuna's last reason of not fighting. And then there is one more reason left now, that was destruction of the dynasty. that if we fight and all the men, all the what do you call that, the people, all the men especially are killed in this battlefield, then who will take care of the women, who will take care of the children? And then one Shankara will happen, unwanted population will come up in the society. And he gave several reasons in that line, that our pitras will not get their offerings, and everybody will be promoted to hellish planets and all. So Krishna will answer that question in this chapter now. So we start with Karma Yoga. So now, how we saw that in the previous chapter, Krishna just covered up so many topics, Sankhya Yoga, Karam Kand, Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga was Nishkam Karma Yoga, and so on. But they were like unsystematic, not discussed in detail, and just to defeat his arguments, Krishna was giving all this. He was talking about all these yoga systems. So now in this chapter, Krishna describes Nishkam Karam Yoga. This chapter is specifically called Karam Yoga, that is Nishkam Karam Yoga. That is the art of doing your prescribed duty as an offering to the Lord without being attached. Here it's the Lord has not come in the picture because it's not Bhakti Yoga, but is not being attached to the result, without any personal desire, just doing your duty. So the word karma, we need to understand it has got different meaning. It means action. It also means reaction. Like how we say, oh, this is your karma, you are suffering, for. So karma also means action, that what karma you do. And then reaction also means karma. So there are two types of meanings of the karma. It is used in different contexts. So just understand accordingly. So now in the previous chapter, we saw Krishna told Arjuna to keep all the avram karma. Remember, we talked about the three types of karma, vikarma and akarma and all that. So here Krishna is telling him, in that chapter, Krishna told him to keep away from all the avram karma, by use of his buddhi yoga. He meant to establish, there the superiority of nishkam karma yoga over karma. That don't just do your karma, prescribed duty, but make it nishkam karma yoga. Be intelligent. Buddhi yoga there was nishkam karma yoga. So, however, Arjuna there understood that fighting is a avram karma. It's an abominable action. And that intelligence or the buddhi yoga means to renounce this. So he misunderstood the message of nishkam karma yoga and avram karma. He thought I have to use my buddhi to avoid the avram karma, which he thought is fighting on the battlefield. So Krishna was urging him to fight. So Arjuna found it very contradictory. So this chapter, he asked Krishna about this. The very first two verses here, they are talking about Arjuna's confusion. So we start with Arjuna said, "O Janardana, O Keshva, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruity work? That let me apply my intelligence and not fight. I don't want any fruity work, any karam kand." So he misunderstood the message there. And the second verse is saying, "My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Buddhim mohoyashva." My buddhi is bewildered. It's mohoyashva. Tad ekam vada. Just tell me one path. Ekam. Just tell me one fixed path, what I have to do. So now from verse number 3. I think I didn't tell the sections of this chapter. So here, the first two verses, they talk about Arjuna's confusion. Should he renounce his work, his duty, or should he perform the action? He was confused about renunciation or action. And then in the next section from 3 to 9, Krishna will talk about Nishkam Karam Yoga. Again, he will tell him in detail about Nishkam Karam Yoga. Then verse number 10 to 16, Krishna will go down the ladder. That, okay, if you're not at Nishkam Karam Yoga, then you start from Karam Kand. From Karam Kand, you go to Karam Yoga, and that's how you progress. It's okay. Then verse number 17 to 35, that is the fourth section, Krishna tells him to do Nishkam Karam Yoga to set the right example. That even if you are at a higher level, but still you perform this yoga, Arjuna, to set the right example for others. And verse number 36 to 43 is a wonderful section where Arjuna is asking, even when we know there are sinful reactions for these actions and we don't want to do it, but still we are forced to do some abominable actions, sinful actions. What is the reason behind that? And Krishna tells him the answer for that: lust. And then Krishna tells about how to conquer the lust, where is the lust seated in our body. So that is the last section of this chapter. So first two verses, Arjuna has asked his question, he has expressed his confusion. And now verse number 3 to 9, Krishna is talking about Nishkam Karam Yoga. Verse number 3, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. So this is the simple thing. Krishna will start talking about it then. Okay. Verse number 4 then. Yeah. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So this is still verse number 9 going on. So let's first read the translations, then we'll talk about it. So what did Krishna tell in fourth verse? Not by abstaining from the work one can achieve freedom, nor by renunciation alone. No? Not by avoiding some work or by renouncing, one can attain perfection. Verse number 5, Krishna is telling, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Karyate he avashya karma. Everybody has to do some karma. It's not possible that one can remain without doing any karma. Verse number 6, one who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Okay, let's just start talking about it now. So, verse number 3, Krishna told about two people. So, he distinguished between Gyan Yoga and Karam Yoga. No? The faith can be divided into two parts: Gyan Yoga or Karam Yoga. So, he's telling Arjuna, oh Anagha, oh sinless one. I have spoken of this earlier in the previous chapter also. So although Krishna has described people of two types of faith, Karam yogis who perform the prescribed work and the Gyan yogis who renounce the work, they are ultimately one in the sense that they aspire for the same goal. This will be more clear later on in the fifth chapter. So Krishna is just talking about these two types of people here, Gyan yogi and Karam yogi. Then one with an impure heart, he should perform prescribed duties for purification of the heart. This is what Krishna is going to explain now here. Premature renunciation is discouraged in the fourth chapter, not by merely. So if you are not prepared for renunciation, don't go for it. Na karmanam anarambhan, not performing the prescribed duties. Anarambha. Aram is doing something. Anarambhan is not doing something. You don't have to do that, because Arjuna was thinking fighting the war means reaction, bondage. So he wanted to give up the duty of fighting. So Krishna is telling it's not like that. And also not by taking sannyas, you will get siddhim, success or perfection. So morning to evening, not doing anything, just eating what others are giving. But still Krishna says that one will have to, face reaction while breathing, while walking. Some organisms are getting killed. So simply by our existence also, we are causing sins, for which we have to face the reactions. So he's telling him, don't think that by sannyas you will get perfection, because perfection is purification and achieving love of God. That is perfection, not just not doing anything and avoiding the sins. That is not going to work out. Perfection is not sannyas. Sannyas is just conducive for achieving that perfection. And if one takes sannyas prematurely, not fully purified, material desires, they will haunt him. And there is no way of purification then for him. Because according to the scriptures, after sannyas, one cannot go back, down the ladder. He can't go to varnashram or grasta ashram or the previous ashrams to perform his prescribed duties and get purified. So now what? If somebody prematurely enters a sannyas ashram, he renounces everything, then what happens? Krishna is telling in the fifth verse, then he's called a pretender. Now, fifth verse is telling everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities. Therefore, one cannot refrain. So Krishna is telling no. Shanam api, not even for a moment. Jatu tishtati akaram krit. Without doing something that is not possible. Karyati he avasham karam. Helplessly one is pushed. Prakriti jair gunaha. By the modes of the nature, one will be pushed to do something. And then in the next verse, without purification of the heart, if one takes sannyas, his mind will keep meditating upon the sense objects. Karma indriyani samyamya. Karma indriya. Working senses might be controlled. They are under samyam. They are under control. But the mind is not under control. They might be just sitting in one posture at one place. The working senses are under karma indriyas are under control, under samyam. But mansa smaran, mind is meditating upon so many indriyas, so many sense objects. And such people are then called mithyachari. This word here in this verse number 6 is mithyachari, pretender. Vimudhatma, they are foolish. Indriyane vimudhatma, mithyachari. So they people are foolish. They are just becoming pretenders. So Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna that you are not yet completely purified by performing your prescribed duties, so you don't have to take sannyas. Else you will become a pretender. You may renounce everything here and go to the forest, but the modes of nature which are acting upon you, you are a Kshatriya by nature, passion is acting upon you. You will not be able to sit at rest there. You will feel like fighting there also. And if you don't do that, you just sit at one place, restrain your karma indriyas, your mind will still be meditating upon all those thoughts, on all the sense objects, and then you will be a pretender. It will not help you in any purification or perfection. You will just be a pretender. So verse number 7, then he's telling, therefore, better than that is, what should you do? Continue to perform your prescribed duties without being attached to the result. Karma indriya, karma yogam. If a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga without attachment, he is by far superior. So no need of giving up everything, but engage in karma yoga. Be a karma yogi. That is better. Vishishyate. Vishishyate is better. That is better for you, Arjuna. Karma yogi means nishkam karma yogi here. Don't be attached to the result. Just do your duties. And in the verse number 8, another argument given by Krishna. On one hand, there is a danger of becoming a pretender. And on the other hand, even for basic living, one has to work to maintain his body and soul together. It's just not possible that you just sit and, you will be able to maintain your body and soul together. You will have to beg for living. And that's not your nature. You are a Kshatriya. Begging is not your nature. That's not your duty. Therefore, he should do his Kshatriya dharma, the householder dharma. And for that, it's good for him to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga without attachment to the result. Okay, that was verse number 8. Verse number 9. Now, if somebody asks that, okay, we don't have to be attached to the result, but what to do with the result now? To whom the results have to be given? The result doesn't belong to me, then whom does it belong to? Whom do we have to offer it to? So Krishna is telling here, it's an important verse. यज्ञार्थार्थ कर्मणो अन्यत्र लोकोयम कर्म बंधना tad artham karam kaunteya mukta sanga samachar. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So this verse tells us that whom the result has to be offered to Lord Vishnu. Whatever we do should be for his satisfaction, just doing our duty for his satisfaction, and that will help us in our purification and attaining the perfection. Then we come to the next section. Now this section, Krishna is talking about the previous step of the yoga ladder. From Karam Kand, he will take Arjuna to Karam Yoga. So let's see verse number 10. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." So this is perform yajna, performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily. That is Karam Kand, fulfilling all our desires. So if one can't do Nishkam Karam Yoga, he's attached to the fruits, he has a tendency to enjoy, then Krishna takes one step down, do Karam Kand. And then gradually you will become purified and you will come to the platform of Karam Yoga, that is Nishkam Karam Yoga. So in the beginning of creation, Lord constituted yajna, sacrifice for Vishnu, by which people can be happy in this world. And at the end, then they can go back to the spiritual world. So person performing Karam Kand, they get purified. Why? There are few reasons for that. This is very important for us to understand this and how Karam Kand can help us to become purified and rise to the Nishkam Karam Yoga. We had discussed in the class, but if anybody remembers, you want to share? There are at least 3 reasons I think I gave you. Okay, no problem. So by performing Karam Kand, what happens? How does one get purified? Number 1, because the person is following the Vedas, authority. He's following the instructions of the Lord. He's doing his duty as per the scriptures. He's performing some worship, some sacrifice as per the scripture. So because he's following the Vedas, he's following the authority, he's following the instructions of the Lord, he becomes purified. Though he is doing it for his enjoyment, but indirectly he's following the instructions of the Lord, and that helps him in his purification. Second reason is chanting the names of Vishnu. In whatever demigod worship is done, the sacrifices are done, the havans, yagyas are done, name of Lord Vishnu's are chanted in that. People might not be aware of that, but in every sacrifice, offering is done to Lord Vishnu. So by chanting the names of Lord Vishnu also, one becomes purified. And the third reason is sacrificing one's hard-earned money and the time for doing all this. That also helps one in his purification. Okay, so these are the 3 reasons. Sacrificing one's money for all these things is not easy. People just want to directly use the money for their enjoyment. But if they're taking a part of it, as per the scriptures, they're doing some action, and then they want to enjoy using the money for all this, sacrificing the money for all this also helps them in their purification then. But for us, Prabhupada in the purport, in the last part, gives us an important message that in this age, the yajna we have to do is Sankirtan yajna. We don't have to worry about all other yajnas. This yajna is sufficient for us and it will help us in our purification and perfection. But anyways, how Karam Kand helps one to get purified and go to the next step of Nishkam Karam Yoga? These are the 3 reasons we need to understand. Then verse number 11. The demigods, being pleased by its sacrifices, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Okay. So, anyways, some of the yajnas in the purport Prabhupada is telling, some of the yajnas are meant to satisfy particular demigods. But even in so doing, Lord Vishnu is worshipped in all yajna as the chief beneficiary. So the ultimate beneficiary for all the yajnas is Lord Vishnu only. So this is how he's purified then. Verse number 12. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Okay. So Krishna is basically telling here that for happiness, for enjoyment, you perform yajna. And there is some cooperation between men and demigods. In verse number 11, what he told. The demigods, when they are pleased by the sacrifices, they supply the, they fulfill the desires and they supply the human beings with all the necessities. So that cooperation is there between men and demigod, and then prosperity is there. In verse number 12, then Krishna is telling, but one enjoys such gifts no? Like food that comes from rain, and without offering to the demigods, then he is called a thief. Stenaha. This word here, stena, is very important. Yo bhunkte stena eva saha. Who just enjoys without offering it in return to them, then he's a stena. This word we should know. This is thief. In verse number 12, Krishna is telling this. If we don't offer it, then we are thieves. Then verse number 13, eating food offered in sacrifice. So those devotees who eat food remnants of sacrifice, they are released from all kinds of sins. Muchyante sarva kilbhisha. Yagya Shishtashina Santo. So this is again an important verse. Yagya Shishtashina Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilbhisha. They are released from all kinds of sins. On the other hand, Bhunjate te tav agham papa ye pachanti atma karanat. Atma karanat. Those who are just eating food for their enjoyment, they are merely eating sins. Bhunjate te tav agham papa. They are only eating sins. Those who are preparing food for their personal sense enjoyment. And verse number 14 and 15, Krishna is talking about the cycle of sacrifice. Cycle of sacrifice. These two verses, they just go hand in hand. Here we see. Okay. Anad bhavanti bhutani. That means all living bodies subsist on food grains. Bhutani are the living entities and anad is the food grain. So living entities, they subsist on the food grains. Parjanyad anna sambhava. And how does that anna come into being then? Because of the rains. Grains are produced because of rains. And then yagyad bhavanti parjanyo. Now how does the rain come? Rains are produced by performance of yagya. And now what is this yagya? Yagya karma samudbhav. Yagya is born of prescribed duties. So yagya means when we are doing our prescribed duties for the pleasure of the Lord, when we are doing it, then rains are produced. Because of the rains, grains are produced, and then the grains, they help us to sustain our life. And the next part then, karma brahmod bhavam vidhi. Prescribed duties. How do we know about our prescribed duties? They are mentioned in the Vedas. Brahma akshara samud bhavam. Vedas are directly manifested from the Lord. Brahma aksharam. Tasmat sarva gatam brahma nityam yagye pratishtitam. Consequently then, all pervading Supreme Lord, he is then eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So whatever we are doing, our prescribed duties, it becomes an act of sacrifice, because these prescribed duties, they are mentioned in the Vedas. They are words of the Brahma, the Supreme Lord, Brahman, Brahmakshara, and this is how then it helps in our purification. Okay. Now here, I think when we did this was verse number 12. Verse number 12, that was an important, that was an interesting point, not very important though, like where we talked about thief. If we don't offer anything in return to the demigods, then we are called thieves, stena. So here in our class, when we discussed the chapter in detail, we talked about Panchashuna. Prabhupada is talking about that in the purport. So while doing any ordinary activity, we are committing sins. Like I just mentioned some time back, eating, walking, breathing, so many sins we are committing. So what is the solution for all that? So Prabhupada, he tells in Srimad Bhagavatam that Panchashuna, that means there are 5 types of slaughterhouses in every house. Even if we are not eating meat, these 5 types of slaughterhouses are there in every house. What are they? The first one is brooming or vacuuming. When we are cleaning the house, brooming, mopping, so many living entities get killed. Second is we all cook in our house. When we light a fire, so many organisms get killed. Third is when we keep any object on the floor, anything on the floor, something gets crushed under it. While keeping the book on the table also, some organism is there and getting killed. So keeping any object also is incurring a sin. And then the fourth one is grinding something in mortar and pestle. Earlier they had mortar and pestle, now we have the mixer, grinder and all that. So when we are grinding something, organisms get ground with that, and that is also a sin. And then the last one, the Panchshunya, the fifth slaughterhouses. What do we call it? Pisna, that is grinding is like putna with mortar and pestle. And this is pisna, like how we make a powder of something. So like in big machine or something. So that is called pisna. In that also so many organisms, they get ground along. So these are the 5 types of slaughterhouses in every house. Even while carrying out our day-to-day activity, we are committing so many sins. So there are then 5 types of yagyas, which are necessary to counter these things. This is, of course, not meant for us, just for your knowledge, I'm sharing with you. If somebody question us that, we are doing this, so what do you do for all that? So, okay, according to scriptures, these are the 5 Panchunyas, and then there are 5 Mahayagyas mentioned for all this. The first yagya mentioned is Brahma Yagya, that is studying the scriptures. That purifies us from all these sins. Second yagya is Dev Yagya, when we do yagya for the Devtas. The third is yagya for the forefathers, Pitri Yagya. So Brahma Yagya, Dev Yagya, Pitri Yagya, and then there is Nri Yagya or Bhuti Yagya. That is when we are trying to help the people around us, the human beings or the what do you call that, less abled people, those who are poor or are suffering from some diseases. When we sacrifice something to help them, social welfare activities, or feeding birds, animals, anybody, that is called Bhuti Yagya or Nri Yagya. So that also helps in our purification. The last one is Athithi Yagya. So these are the yagyas to be performed by a grahastha. Athithi Yagya, serving the guests at home, Athithi. So that also helps in our purification or saving us from the sins incurred by these day-to-day activities. But Prabhupada is saying all this is for ordinary people. If we have taken to the process of devotional service, then none of the above is required. When we are doing everything, putna, pisna, putting book on the Bhagavad Gita on the table, lighting the fire to cook bhoga for the Lord, cleaning the house because it's Krishna's house, whatever. When we make all these activities, devotional activities, then we don't have to worry about sins. So this section is this thing Prabhupada has mentioned here in the Prabhupada is for the ordinary people. Okay, so that was just taking you back to cover up that point. Now we come back. So 14th, 15th verse we did. Now moving on to verse number 16. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So again, Krishna is telling that what if you don't perform the sacrifices? If one is not Krishna conscious, then one has to perform these yagyas. Otherwise, what will happen? One will be entangled in sinful reactions. So for those who are, sensory conscious, those who are not Krishna conscious, these yagyas are prescribed. One has to perform these yagyas to avoid the entanglement in sinful reactions. So then gradually they become elevated and purified, and then ultimately they become Krishna conscious. So purification has to happen. And this is the way to purify yourself when you are engaged in karam kandas. Then from verse number 17 to 21 now. Okay. Verse number 17 to rather 35 only. Krishna will now talk about one who is in full knowledge. He doesn't have any material desires or attachment. So he does not need to do prescribed duties for his purification. Still, he performs his prescribed duties mentioned by the scriptures to set an example for those who are less knowledgeable. This is what Krishna is talking here, Nishkam Karma Yoga, to set the right example. So this is where he started. Don't go for Gyan, don't go for renunciation, Arjuna. You will be a pretender. Do Nishkam Karma Yoga. And even somebody is not able to Nishkam Karma Yoga, he took them down. Do Karam Kand. Various sacrifices are mentioned in the scriptures. And then, okay, you might not be, at the level of Karam Kand or Nishkam Karam Yoga. You are higher than that. You are at a Gyan Yoga level or Bhakti Yoga level. But still, Arjuna, do it to set an example for others. The Lord is telling that if someone is fully purified, is Atmarati, Atma Tript, Tript is satisfied, is fully satisfied, then he has no duty to perform. Tasya karyam na vidyate. No karam is required for him to then do. So if someone has no material desires, no hankerings, totally purified, satisfied, then he doesn't have any duties to perform. Because performance of prescribed duties is for purification. So he may be, on any path, Gyan Yoga or Karma Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, etc. But if one is purified, then no need for doing any duties. The reason for performing prescribed duties is for purification. If one is purified, then what to do? Then we have to do it to set example for others. This is what Krishna is telling here in verse number 17. Self-realized soul need not work, yet he works. Self-realized person has no duty. Verse number 17 and 18, Krishna is telling, no obligation to do any prescribed action, no taste for material pleasures, no purpose or gain in performing such actions, no reason for not performing such work too. No need to depend upon any other living being or demigods. So one who has spiritual intelligence, he doesn't perform prescribed actions with desires, but he does them without attachment to results to set the right example for others. So this is the message Krishna is telling to Arjuna here in this section. So obligatory work with detachment. Just keep doing Nishkam Karma Yoga. 20 to 24, again setting right example of work. Yeah, verse number 20 here now, Krishna is like, Arjuna may say that I'm totally purified, so no need for me to perform any duty. So then Krishna is telling, if we see in the purport also here, Prabhupada is giving the, in the verse, Krishna is giving the example of Janakadya. The Janak and other kings also, kings such as Janak attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So like the king Janak also, he was purified by doing his duties. He didn't have to carry on, but he carried on to set the example for others. So Arjuna, you do your duty. 21 again is an important verse. Yeah. Yad yad achrati shreshtas tat tad eva taro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So this is again a very famous verse, giving the same reason. If you don't do your duties, how will others do their duties? You are their leader. Therefore, he is encouraging Arjuna to follow his prescribed duty. Krishna is telling here a very important principle that whatever standard the leaders, the shreshtas, the prominent people, or we can say parents also, they set, common people will follow that. The dependents will follow that. So what type of leaders we should have, what type of parents we should become, this is a message for us. We can't just have irrational expectations from our children if we are not setting the right example for them. And then, okay, verse number 22, Krishna is telling, O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me. He's giving his own example now. No work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So Krishna is giving his own example here. Okay. Then verse number 23. If I ever fail to engage, what happens then? If one fails to engage carefully in performing prescribed duties, in verse number 23 and 24, Krishna is telling that all men would certainly follow my path. All these words would be put to ruination. They will be ruined. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population. I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So this is the answer to Krishna's fourth argument, unwanted progeny, fall down of women, Varna Shankara. So Krishna is telling that you are telling me that if all the men of that generation, they die, then one Shankara will happen. But if I don't perform my prescribed duty, then people will also not do their duty. There will not be any civilization anymore. And in an uncivilized society, what happens? One Shankara, unwanted population. So verse number 24, the very first line of the purport, Prabhupada is telling one Shankara is unwanted population, which disturbs the peace of the general society. So here Krishna is refuting that argument of Arjuna. So you have to do your duty to set the right example, to keep the society in good shape. Verse number 25. 25 to 29, now Krishna is talking about attached worker and detached worker, Karam Kandi and Karam Yogi. Okay. So here basically we get the lesson that, those who are attached to their result, they should not be disturbed by us. That will not be helpful for them or for us. It won't help either of us. So one who is attached worker, he should not be disturbed by the detached worker. So in verse number 25, 27, and 28, Krishna is talking about the difference between the attached worker and the detached worker. And in verse number 26 and 29, he will describe how the detached worker deals with an attached worker. How we need to deal. It's a practical lesson for us. So 25th verse, act without attachment to set example. Again, as the ignorant people work with attachment to the result, the wise, they may similarly act. The same type of action is performed by the wise people also, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. For somebody who is watching from outside, it might seem to be, the same type of action. What is the difference between the two people? The difference is in their consciousness, attachment to the result or being detached from the result. For Loka Sangraham, setting the right example for people in general, just keep doing that. Okay, then verse number 26, how a learned person should behave with an unlearned person. A wise person should behave with an ignorant person. So don't disturb the ignorant, because the ignorant people are bewildered by the material modes. Guna samudha, the gunas have bewildered them. The ignorant, they perform the material activities and they become attached to their results. But the wise should not unsettle them. Rather, by personally working with the detachment, they should engage them in some activity. They have to inspire even the ignorant people to do their duty, even if they are doing it with attachment. Do not disturb the minds of the ignorant men attached to the fruitive activity. So they are agyanam karma sanginam. They are foolish, agyanis, attached to the fruitive work. Karma sanginam, karma ka sang mein hai wo. Joshet sarva karmani, dovetail all the activities in Lord's service. So indirectly, without disturbing them, without telling them what you are doing is totally wrong, you're a foolish person, you're totally ignorant. No, we have to dovetail their activities in Lord's service. If there is a person attached to the fruits, if we tell this is entanglement, you stop working, will this help that person? We have talked about this system, all along. What do you say? Just stopping from doing his work, will that help him? Anybody?
No, ma'am, not at all.
So this will not purify him. If he stops doing his prescribed duties, this will not help him, will not take him to perfection level then. So we have to just dovetail their activities.
So, Mataji, one doubt, Mataji. So, without telling them, how do we help them to dovetail their activities in Krishna service, Mataji? One example.
Yeah, Mataji, definitely. So what happens at this level? The person is dictated by the modes, we read that, how the modes are overpowering him. He's bewildered by the modes. Rajogun, especially, it's pushing him to work. So we have to rather teach him to engage the fruits in Krishna's service, like how we do with the new people in our movement, just asking them to give some donation, give some grains for the temple kitchen. So this will definitely help them in their purification. They will think that, yeah, this will get me some good result. They are attached to the result, but they're doing it for a good cause. So when we engage them in Lord's service, not in some karam kand, no, you do this and you will get this, you go to this demigod, you worship and all that. Engage them in Krishna's service. Give some donations, monthly donation to the temple. They may think that, okay, this is equivalent to demigod worship only. I will give 10 rupees and I will get 1 lakh rupees in return. But that will not happen. Krishna will purify them. So we can engage them by contributing in the temple. Now we have got this land and all. So engage as many people as possible to contribute for that land. Then they can give some grains. People like to give grains for the kitchen, temple kitchens. Or we can engage them in some service that, come and clean the floor or serve prashadam to somebody. Or, you know, um, chanting and all. If somebody don't take it directly, at least we can make them hear it if they are not ready to say it. So this will help them to be detached, slowly they will become purified and they will start developing detachment. So Srila Prabhupada engaged devotees in various services according to their nature. If somebody is good in art painting, we can ask them to draw a painting for a painting of Lord Krishna. We have in our IBC also some Matajis have made paintings which are put up there in the temple, in the center. So just engage them, whatever is their interest. Oh, you are so good at it. Do you want to write something about Krishna? Do you want to write a poem? Do you want to, cook something for Krishna? Like we have these festivals, so many festivals, we try to engage so many souls in offering something to the Lord. Some fruits, something, uncooked food, especially for the those who are not chanting 16 rounds. So they can contribute in any way. Okay, Mataji, if we directly go and tell them what you are doing is just totally wrong and this will just lead to entanglement and you should stop doing all this will neither help us nor them. This will waste our time, our energy also. They are not at that level to understand what we are talking about. And if they stop their action, they will be, not able to advance anymore.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, my friend's daughter, she stammers and she was telling me this stammering is causing a lot of loss for her. She is not getting chance anywhere. So I told her that you can make her chant, just chant whatever she wants, or she can chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That will loosen her tongue or will relax her. Maybe is it okay, Mataji? Because she knows nothing about Krishna
Yes,
consciousness.
yes, Mataji. Anybody, everybody can chant Hare Krishna. Even if, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he just, the holy name is glorified at so many places in such wonderful ways. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself says that even if a person who has taken birth in a Vaishnava family, but is not chanting the holy name, there is no name of Krishna, Hare, Ram on his tongue, he is just not dear to me at all. And on the other hand, if a person is born in a Chandala family, in a dog eater family, and he's chanting the Hari's name, he is most dear to me. So whatever is the consciousness, whatever is the surrounding of the person, get them into chanting. This chanting will make them dear to the Lord, and the Lord will take care of everything else. We are just instruments. We have to pray to the Lord to make us instruments. We have to just become instruments. We are not the doers. Krishna will take care of it. We just keep doing this. So you are doing very good, Mataji. You can also encourage her to read shalokas. Shalokas also, they really help in our speech, and intelligence also becomes sharp. This a scientific study has also proved all that.
Yes, Mataji, she was asking what to chant shlokas or Hare Krishna. I told her that you can start with Hare Krishna. You can start with that, and shloka learning is a bit difficult, and she is not.
So if she can't learn it, just see it and read it. See it
Yeah.
and read it. Yad acharati shreshtas. She can open Bhagavad Gita and read it. So she may
Yeah.
stammer sometimes, and slowly this will help her. And definitely then she's doing a devotional service, so Krishna will help her. Very
Yes,
nice.
Mataji.
Yeah. So verse number 27 now. We did till 26, so how we don't have to disturb the people. Verse number 27, what is the mentality of the ignorant people? Why is he attached to the fruits? Somebody may wonder, because he thinks I am the doer. So obviously the fruits are for me. Prakriti kriya manani. This is again an important verse. Guna karmani sarvasha ahankar vimudatma. Karta aham miti manyate. He thinks I am the doer. Karta aham. Ahankar. He has got a lot of false ego. He's bewildered by the false ego. But in actuality, what is the truth? Jiva can only desire. Everything is done by the three modes. Prakriti kriya manani. Guna karmani sarvasha. These gunas are doing everything. So Krishna conscious person understands that he is not independent. The body, mind, senses, everything is in the control of three modes. So I am not the doer. Fruits are not in my hand. Krishna is doing everything, so fruits are for him. And therefore he engages everything in Krishna service. But on the other hand, ignorant person doesn't understand all this. And then verse number 28, we understand about the mental. So this was the mentality of the ignorant person. Verse number 28, Krishna is telling about the mentality of the learned person, Tattvavit, who has the knowledge of absolute truth, Tattva. So one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. So this is what we just talked about, Tattvavit, Krishna consciousness. Then verse number 29, Krishna is talking about mentality of mandan, mand buddhi we call, So not so learned people, lazy, ignorant people, they are engaged in materialistic activities, they become attached. Guna karmani. They are like Krishna with those in knowledge. Na vichalyet. So those who are in knowledge, they are not agitated. Yeah, they should not agitate the mandan, samodhan. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached, but the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. So Krishna win here, the last line. Krishna here means those who are in knowledge. Na vichalyet. They should not unsettle, they should not agitate the mandan people, those who are less intelligent people. Verse number 30. Mai sarvani karmani. Yeah. So therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So again, Krishna gives a direct instruction to Arjuna. If Arjuna is still confused, Krishna is giving here a direct instruction. Perform all your work simply for me, Mai Sarvani. This is like we did a drop of bhakti in second chapter, verse number 61. Where Krishna is again telling about that. So bhakti is being added here. So in all the three sections, karam, gyan, bhakti, they are there. Like first 6 chapters, middle 6 chapters, last 6 chapters. But one of them is prominent. So in the first section, karam is prominent. That's why it's called karam yoga. But Krishna has mentioned bhakti in this section and in the last section as well. So verse number 31, if you follow any injunctions, then you will be benefited. So this is the result of following Krishna's injunction. So Krishna gave him instruction, verse number 30, that do this. And then verse number 31, he is telling result of following my teachings. Those who execute their duties according to my injunction, faithfully, shradhavanto, without envy, anasuyanto. Shuyanto is envy, anashuyanto, without envy and envy, then what is the result? They become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. And on the other hand, in verse number 32, Krishna is telling result of disregarding my teachings. Out of envy. Why one doesn't follow Krishna's instructions? It's mainly because of envy. That is the reason why we are here in the material world. We didn't want to do what Krishna wants us to do. So this envy is a very, very strong enemy. Out of envy, abhyasuntaha, those who do not follow my teachings are devoid of all knowledge and discrimination, and they are befooled and they are ruined. This is the result of disregarding Krishna's teachings. Verse number 33 to 35. Now, working according to one's nature. Krishna is telling that you have to work, you have to do your duties. But how you work now? Again, he's talking about that. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Repression means punishment. Nigraha kim karshati. The last line, the last part of the shloka here. Nigraha kim karishyati. What will punishment do? Regression do? A person will act according to his nature. Okay. What do we understand then? Verse number 34. What is the solution? There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversions because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. So there is deep-rooted conditioned nature. We all have got so many impressions and a fixed nature. We tend to act according to that, even if we have the knowledge. Right? But then what we have to do is gradual purification. Attachment and aversion, raga and dvesh. These two things we have to be careful about. We have to regulate our attachment, rag, and aversion, that is dvesh, pertaining to the senses and sense objects. Whatever impressions we have got, this thing will give me honor, this thing will give me dishonor. I'm attached to this act. I have dvesh to this act. So all these impressions we have to be clear. So Arjuna might ask, okay, what if one adopts to others' duties, such as non-violence, rather than doing one's own duty of fighting the battle due to the attachment and repulsion? He doesn't like this, he likes that, and he doesn't want to do any fighting, even though he's a Kshatriya. Then what to do? Krishna is telling in verse number 35, it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duty perfectly. Destruction is the course of performing one's own duty. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. So, in this material world, everyone is controlled by the verse number 34, what we read about rag and dvesh. That is very important for us to understand. Krishna is saying that everyone is bound by these two things, and these two things are controlled by the modes. The different modes are telling us this is good for me, this is bad for me. So therefore, there are rules and regulations, some principles to regulate this raga and dvesha. That is called regulated sense gratification. I like to do this, but I have to do it in a regulated manner. Like we have the rituals of marriage and all. So that's the solution for the influence of the Prakriti. One can't give up the influence of the three modes, but one can regulate it according to the Shastras. One learns to live a disciplined life, even if it doesn't like or he likes something. Accidents do happen on the royal road. There's an important point by Srila Prabhupada. Even if one is attached, to the regulated sense gratification, that is also danger. We think that, okay, we are into this, we have performed this ritual, now we are good to do whatever we want to do. No. Prabhupada says accidents happen on the royal road also. Even if we have done that, we have to slowly give that up. We have to become purified. Meat, only on this day you can eat meat, nighttime you can eat meat. So that is a regulated way. But if you become attached to that regulated way, then also there's no point in doing that. So then very soon it may become unregulated also. So we have to rise above that. We have to keep moving up. We have to transcend the enjoying propensity. So by taking up Krishna consciousness, that is the ultimate thing for us, which Prabhupada tells again and again. So in verse number 35, now what we were talking about, the Krishna says, in order to control one's mind and senses, one needs to perform the prescribed duties according to his own propensity, even if it is faultily performed. because that will then help in his purification. And then slowly, slowly will give up the tendency to enjoy. If you hear Arjuna being a Kshatriya, he says, no, I don't want to fight. I just I will take sannyas, or I just want to become, what do you call that, a Brahmana, just begging from door to door. This will not purify him, because that is not his nature. One has to act according to his nature, even if he's not able to do it perfectly. Otherwise, it will cause only destruction. Okay, so I think it's already 9:09. Yeah. So we have just stop here, I think. Do your duty and don't imitate others. That is the lesson for us from verse number 35. Now this section, last section 36 to 43, is again very interesting, talking about the lust. So we'll talk about it in the next class, and then we'll start with the 4th chapter. Okay, only a few verses, but still we need some time for it. It's already 9:09. So anybody, any questions, any thing you want to add, you want to share, you want to comment, we can talk about that.
Mataji, accidents can happen on royal road too. Means even in Krishna consciousness, there can be danger in falling. Is that does it mean that?
No, that is for the people who are doing, sense enjoyment in a regulated manner. We are doing everything for Krishna. We are not doing it for our enjoyment. So that is just like, people think that now once they have entered the institution of marriage, they are free to gratify their senses, as much as they want. So that is not going to help them. They have to regulate it, like how Krishna tells, only for bringing forth Krishna conscious children, or meat eating, or drinking alcohol, or whatever. Like, no, instantly one can't be purified. The senses have to be controlled and purified in a gradual manner. But if we become attached to that gradual process, then accidents can happen. That means one can again fall down. That can become his tendency to do more often. Now he might be eating non-veg only on the night of Amavasya, but if he keeps doing that every Amavasya, then accident can happen, and he can fall down, means he may start eating it every day, or more than, more often in a week, and slowly then every day. So one can fall out of institution of marriage also then. So it just means that, the people who are trying to do certain activities according to the scriptures, following some regulative principles to regulate their sense gratification, if they don't rise above that, like, Prabhupada is just inspiring here us to take up to Krishna consciousness. That is the ultimate way. If you just stay at that level, then you may rise up, but there are chances of accidents also. You may fall down as well. That is what he's telling. But when we are practicing Krishna consciousness, there is no chance of accident here. It's just that we have to be really Krishna conscious. That's what I tell again and again. We have to remind ourselves we are doing it for Krishna. Doing it for Krishna. Then he will take care of it. Even if our senses are not under control now, he will help us. So we have to become Krishna conscious in the true sense. Okay. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Anybody else? Okay. So we'll see you next week.